Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, sorry, I'm just getting distracted by note takers. Okay, cool. Welcome, everyone. If someone could please drop the agenda in the chat too, Liz, that would be great. I think we'll start as usual as we do with brief introductions and a couple of updates. We will do the leaders, and then if all attendees as the leaders are introducing ourselves, will please just drop their name, role, and organization into the chat. So we can just do brief introductions that way. But most of you know me. I am Sandy Briggs. I work for the City of Boulder's Climate Initiatives Department. I'm honored to be a co-chair of this Colorado Composting Council, and I also represent us, the COCC, that is, on the United States Composting Council's Legislative and Environmental Affairs Committee. And I'm going to toss it over to Liz Morrow.
Thanks, Sandy. Hi, everybody. Liz Morrow. I'm the landfill manager and compost facility manager for the city of Glenwood Springs over on the Western Slope. And I'm also Sandy's co-chair here at Colorado Composting Council. And I will hand it off to Rutger.
Hello, everybody. My name is Rutger Myers. I am the Director of Compost at EcoCycle, and I am the treasurer / financial liaison for the COCC. And I will pass it to Robbie.
Hi, everyone. Robbie Tepperberg. I'm the Compost Operations Manager for the Auraria Sustainable Campus Program, higher education campus in downtown Denver. And I am one of the vice chairs of the Colorado Composting Council, and I will pass it off to Kimberly.
Hi, everybody. Great to see you. I'm Kimberly Lavender with Compost Colorado. I'm the Outreach and Development Manager there, and I am one of the co-vice chairs.
Okay, I think that was everyone, right? I think it would also be good, even though I'm not sure why this isn't on our list, but if the Recycle Colorado staff could please introduce themselves as well. Brandy, kicking it over to you.
Everybody, good to see all of your shiny faces. Brandy Moe, Executive Director of Recycle Colorado, and I'll pass it off to Allie.
Hey everyone, I am Allie Bzeski, the Director of Operations with Recycle Colorado, and I will pass it off to Cam.
Hi everyone, I'm Cam, Program Coordinator for Recycle Colorado.
All right, I think that is cool there. Of course, we have lots of illustrious people on this call, and we will talk to them all, I'm sure, as we go through our conversations today. I did also want to do just a quick shout out to Nikki Rachelson, who is actually probably not on our call today, but she is our now retired recorder from the COCC. She has obtained a different role outside of the composting world and has decided to step back from her role here. So just wanted to toss out a quick thank you to anyone that knows Nikki, to reach out to her and give our thanks to her for her service to the COCC. That also just brings me to a very quick announcement about 2027 elections. As you know, it's August, so we need to start thinking about next year, like last month. So just so everyone's aware that we will start thinking about elections for leadership for the COCC and of course all the other Recycle Colorado councils later this year. So if you're interested in serving or you know anyone that might be, please feel free to keep that in mind, and we'll be sending out official information about that closer to the fall time, probably closer around the October, November timeframe. So just keep that on your radar. All right. Well, without any further ado, continue to add your names and roles and organizations into the chat, because we're going to capture all that to Allie, I think, right? The chat log will be great, so we'll have all that included. But I would like to kick it over to Marshall Hall. Marshall, friend, fellow LEAC member as well, works for, he's one of the board members of the president of the Virginia Composting Council, as well as Nope Compost in Virginia. And he has some very interesting information to share with us, especially as we are currently delving into our own Colorado state diversion type policies. And I'm going to let Marshall take it away. You feel free to introduce yourself some more if you like, Marshall. You should have presentation ability, I think. to show your slides. And we're going to learn about what Virginia has done with their very recently passed compost bill there.
And I will ask for a second, as this is the first time I've used the share feature of on Zoom, so I'm trying to figure out where I have a tab open on my browser, but I'm trying to find it here. So give me 1 second.
Good.
You should have access once you click the share button, and then just click either the browser or share your full screen, and then.
Okay. I apologize. I
Okay,
thought I was
Marshall.
ready. I thought I had it ready.
That's quite all right.
It's confusing.
It's always something new.
Okay, I think I've got it now. Let me try it again. Yep, got it. All right.
So
All right, can everybody see that? All right.
we
First,
can.
I'll do
You
a
just
quick,
might want to put it into presentation mode, Marshall.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay, got it. That's perfect. Awesome. Take it away.
Yeah. Well, a quick introduction. I am Marshall Hall. I own a compost hauling business in Richmond, Virginia. We started our business in 2009, and policy has come a long way since then. And I've always been a strong believer that good policy is an important tool to help drive behavior change and move people towards an outcome that we all want. I'm here today to talk about it was a House Bill 1011 here in Virginia that originally got vetoed in 2024. I was quite frankly shocked that it actually made it to the governor's desk in 2024. So that did give us some encouragement that, hey, it will be reintroduced, and it was signed into law just recently in May of this year here in Virginia. And so what it does, this new law is it basically empowers the state, the municipality. So it was a law passed by the state using a mechanism known as the Dillon Rule, which empowers municipalities, the cities, the towns to basically create an ordinance that would effectively make a local organics ban. And so the material here, obviously, the target material is organic waste, food residual, pre and post consumer, vegetables, grains, dairies, and meat. The entities that are kind of target are large generators. So this would be your supermarkets and retirement homes, college campuses, things like that. Part of the structure of the law would be that it would be for producers that make a ton or more a week of material. So, if you're under that, you're not producing that much volume, you would be exempt. And then the other kind of parameter that and I think they borrowed this from some of the other state legislation that's similar, is that basically this would apply to large generators that are within 30 miles of a permitted facility in Virginia. So there are provisions, for exemptions. Obviously, if you're more than 30 miles away from a facility, like I explained, you wouldn't be required. And then there also is a mechanism for, to get a waiver based on hardship, conditions of hardship. It wouldn't be just for compost. Now, here in Virginia, we're starting to see, some additional organic recycling technology, namely AD, starting to make inroads here. I think the objective of the law is to keep it out of the landfill, and we, as a team compost person, I think that overall it's a good thing to keep stuff out of the landfill as a whole. All right. All right, this was a question, Sandy, you asked me, and I finally got an answer to. I'm glad. It's like, who's going to enforce this? And so, as you kind of suspected, Sandy, that it would be local municipal code enforcement. So that if it's a local ordinance and people are breaking it, it would be the code enforcement folks out there ensuring that. Um, Part of the law was written in a way that so like you can't start finding out of the gate that they have to be get it, they have to producers have to the generators, I should say, have to be given a warning before there's any kind of financial, fines or anything like that. But subsequent violations kind of quickly escalate. They go, I think every day that they're out of compliance, it's like a separate violation. I think that's, typical on things like this. But the other piece, it's not just an organics ban. The other interesting piece to this law is that there's language in there that encourages use for compost and the way it's termed in the law, other organic soil amendment, which I read to mean probably digestate, which, again, it has certain benefits that are different than compost. If anybody's interested in the distinction, there's a great paper by the USCC that distinguishes between digestate and compost. But I think a big piece here, and we've always been aware of it with the USCC, is that it's one thing if we make compost, we got to have end markets, to distribute it, and there's language in here that would give preference to locally produced compost rather than things that are out of state. And there's a provision like if there's a tie in terms of price that the tie bid would go to the local producer rather than somebody that was an outside producer. So it's still early. Like I said, they just passed the law in May. There's still data is still, accumulating. So there's really nothing to report in terms of like what the effect of this law has been yet, but I'm cautiously optimistic. And then, the constant issue for composting across the country, I've heard it said literally 1,000 times, is the lack of infrastructure. For everybody that's making compost out there, that's great, but if we start having organic waste bans, that's obviously going to drive the need for more infrastructure and hopefully, the investment in infrastructure. Because again, if you're within 30 miles of a population center, which is challenging, to permit a facility, then you're guaranteed, feedstocks, essentially, if it's, the ordinance is passed in your area. The other part of the law directs that any new school construction is going to have infrastructure, built in place for recycling, organics, and for waste like your regular refuse. But I think that's another piece that's important because saying moving forward, we're going to consider this other 1/3 or more of the waste stream as a something that gets some infrastructure in the schools. And I think one of the big talking points I wanted to leave with the folks there in Colorado is the relevance in terms of the structure of this law, in that the way it works in Virginia. In Virginia, I'm sure, like Colorado, it's got geographically diverse regions and different cultural makeups, and the law as it's written provides a certain degree of flexibility that if it was just a statewide mandate might be a challenge. So that might be something that could work for Colorado. Again, I don't know kind of the cultural, layout, but I'm sure that there's, lots of different people all around Colorado in different areas. So, I hope that there's some inspiration there. It's still early, but it's exciting to see, a state here I guess Virginia's technically the South. We're kind of in the middle, but, again, I was surprised that somebody who's been in the industry for a long time. We're really happy that this law has passed. And then I'll wrap up here. Just wanted to share, I produced a 2-page document that can be used, for folks that want to advocate and get in front of their board of supervisors or city council, to advocate for this. It's job creation. That's a huge one on the economic side, and it's local jobs, and ultimately it's going to regenerate local soils, which is a really important thing. Again, I'm happy to share any of this information with anybody that might be interested. And Yeah, I'm happy to answer some questions. Rachel?
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. I hope that you wouldn't mind sharing your slides because it's very helpful and have it distilled down by people in the know. Um, just a little political context or background. So Virginia is a Dillon rule state, meaning for anyone who doesn't know that, so correct me if I get this wrong, Marshall, that the local municipalities have to wait for the state to give them permission to take actions, whereas Colorado is a home rule state. We all know that our cities and counties are they have ability to take actions on things, and there's a whole lot of unfunded mandate pushback against the state when the state does say you need to go and do something. So we're coming at this from a different perspective. So do I get this right that what this law did was it gives permission and kind of a like a sample policy or a sample ordinance that, hey, local government, you can do this and here's what we suggest you do? Is that
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things I feel like are baked in. I think they give a lot of latitude for them to, adjust most of the parameters, but I feel like the 30-mile rule is baked into the law. The 1 ton or more as a generator, that's baked into the law. So as far as I know, there may be some flex. I mean, I'll have to say the law was, simple. I've seen other laws that were many pages long. This was 1 page, so they kept it simple. Yeah. So, um, I'm sorry. I don't feel like I answered your question. What was the
no,
question?
that's fine. And I'm going to jump back in line just to ask, do you think that there's local governments that are excited about this, that are likely to adopt it? Is that where the benefit of
Absolutely.
having this law pass?
Yeah, and I mean, again, Northern Virginia next to DC is a lot more, they've been a lot more supportive of, zero waste and organic waste diversion. So, there's some towns up there that have done some things like put out, bids for haulers to do curbside, but it's paid for by the municipality. So, yeah, there's been interest in my research. I found that no municipality at this point has actually passed it, but I think it's the city of Fairfax and the county of like Arlington, one of those Northern Virginia counties. They've had discussions but have not formally adopted it yet. Yeah. Elizabeth.
Yeah, thanks, Marshall. This is super interesting. I just wanted to bring forward a question from the chat. Peter asked in the chat, would multifamily residential buildings be covered? And I guess I want to make that a two-part question here. Would multifamily be covered? And then going back to, the ton per week limit thing that is going to decide who can be covered at some point. I guess, do you have any more information on how that will be determined and who will decide if the town says someone is over, but they say they're under, who would decide that? Thanks.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely an interesting question. I would say I would say that multifamily units probably would not count. I would think Um, the intent is for a, single generator, single large scale generator. That's, they're talking about large scale generators. And then, I'm sorry, what was the other question?
Oh, if there was a dispute about, say the town is saying you're over the threshold of a ton
Oh,
per week, we want to regulate you, but they're saying they're under, how does
yeah.
that get
Yeah,
decided?
that's a great question, and I don't have an immediate answer to that. I think some generators are going to be clearly over that, limit, and then there is probably going to be some gray area where it's going to be, hard to define, and unless the people have a mechanism for going out and like, measuring a ton of organic waste, like you're right, that's a question I don't know the answer to. I wish that I did, and trust me, I will be seeking that out because if you're asking that question, then other people are going to ask that question, and that's something I want to be able to answer competently. But at this point, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to have like a mobile scale set up and measuring people's dumpsters. I don't know, to be honest with you.
Peter, would you like to go ahead and ask your question too?
Yeah, sure. So following up on the multifamily or the residential, um, in the building certification community, the construction waste is measured actually at the disposal site. And since multifamily buildings would have dumpsters or collection bins that would be picked up, I would think the hauler would keep a record. So that would be one way to measure the weight or the the volume. I'm trying to convince developers to install these sort of these pre-composting. I mean, everybody calls them composters, but these pre-composting devices as standard equipment, and get rid of garbage disposers that use a lot of water and so on. And the question is, one, how does the composting community, has anybody thought about dealing with quantities of that material? Because it's ground and dehydrated. And I read this little memo that Robbie posted about sort of the priorities of food waste handling. But yeah, I'm trying to look at it from the composter side. I'm trying to understand it from the composter side about how this material would be a feedstock and whether it's welcome and so on. And so if anybody has any thoughts on that, I'd like to hear it.
Well, I'll just quickly respond and just say I know I've been in the game for quite a while, and even though my company focuses on commercial, I can say that like multifamily residential is a challenge, because if you have a couple of people that are misinformed and they're making mistakes, then that can contaminate a pile past the level that a composter can accept it. I don't want to speak to the other composters that are on this call, but I know that that's historically been a challenge. So I think this is kind of a first step approach in terms of like, let's get the large generators first. But I'll let some of the other people that make compost respond to that question as well.
Well, let me just jump in. I mean, one of the great things about these machines is whether they're countertop or installed units like I've developed, it's very difficult to contaminate because they won't process if you throw in a plastic cup or even a compostable flatware typically will not get composted by these machines. So I think it makes it, it solves a host of problems, but I'll let other people comment.
Thanks, Peter. And we'll go through the list of hands up. This is great. Thank you so much. But will you please, Marshall, advance your slides to, there you go. That's what I want people to see in case they want to reach out to you. And I also Peter, I was realizing, I can't remember when it was, and I'll have to find it, but there was a really interesting webinar I attended earlier this week or late last week about another municipality that's composting only the dehydrated food scraps from homes. That was pretty interesting too. And they're carrying those over to a compost site actually to have them fully composted. But they're finding that it's a really good way to basically remove the water weight and make it much easier to transport, not only for the households, but also for the folks that are processing the material into their compost piles. So I'll have to find that, and I'll track it down and put it in the chat so you can check that out. But in the meantime, I think Brian has a question for Marshall. So.
Hi, sorry, I'm off screen. I'm in transit. Sandy, I think you opened a whole new can of worms about dehydrating in a water, where water resources are limited. And that's one of the things that I know some places have had some concerns about is reintroducing the water to make an effective compost. But the way I understand it, digestate is also basically a dehydrated material. And I didn't hear you talk about like certified compostables. When we look at large generators, event spaces, whether they're stadiums, outdoor pop-up concert venues, or like places that have gatherings consistently tend to be large generators. So can you tell us how that is being incorporated in? And I also think that multifamily homes, like units, would eventually be considered a large generator.
Yeah, no, thank you for your question. I think I am team compost all day. It's been my goal for, the last, 15 years to try to get more and more people composting. So, whether that's technology or, engaging people directly with education, I'm all for it. And as far as I'm concerned, yeah, we want the multi-family units. We want the sports events, and I think that depending on where these ordinance pass, there's a little bit of like, we'll have to see how that works. You're right. Like they mentioned in the law, grocery stores and schools and stuff like this. But, what about a sports event, especially if you're, you know, um, got a lot of post-consumer compostables. So that they didn't specifically mention post-consumer compostables, but hopefully with more infrastructure and more processing power, that could, that would be something that is a reality. Just a quick aside for another, there was an executive order signed by our governor a couple of years ago outlawing single-use plastic, and it was great. Everybody was excited, but the problem was the supply chain wasn't there, the infrastructure wasn't there, it was premature. So there's, sometimes policy and laws are written with good intent, but like you got to have all the pieces to make it work. And I think Virginia's in that space where they're trying to create policy that encourages the infrastructure growth, and hopefully when we have that infrastructure, we'll have the processing power to handle all that post-consumer, BPI certified material and things like that.
I mean, I'm going to ask a follow up real quick to that because my experience here in Denver, we have an ordinance that I actually helped pass in 22, coming in to roll out the 1st of September. And one of the things that I've focused on in the last 4 years is both vertical and horizontal education. If you aren't, as sporting goods, for example, it requires both educating the customers, but it also requires educating the vendors. I think that we do see the capacity of industry to supply the materials. We've struggled with the capacity of hauling and processing in Colorado, which is expanding extensively. So how does your ordinance focus on the educational aspects to make sure that it's a society communicating, not just putting the bins there, but actually telling people how to use them, and as businesses, how to provide the plating or other such efforts as to avoid the contamination?
Yeah, and I think this goes back a little bit to one of the earlier questions, which is like, do the municipalities have the latitude to make their own decision? I think broadly, yes. Certain parameters, like I said, kind of came in with the base law, the 1 ton, the 30-mile radius. But I don't see why there would be any reason why, a municipality couldn't write the ordinance in a way that worked best for them, So, yeah.
All right. Nina, you're up.
Hi. Super interesting. Thank you. I was wondering if you could just speak to the stakeholdering process to get this passed. I think you mentioned that you all were surprised that it made it to the governor's desk the first time. So how did that happen? And then how did you get over the hurdle the next time?
Yeah, it's interesting. From my understanding, and this was kind of like unofficial third source, it was actually some of the folks from the AD industry that introduced the law. And that's why it was written in a way that was complementary to compost and mentioned compost by name, but actually, some of the language I noticed early on was other organic soil amendments. And, I took that pretty early on to mean digestate. So, again, for the most part, we want to be friends with AD. They offer something a little different than what composters offer, but it's keeping the stuff out of the landfill. And in terms of stakeholder engagement, I think that's there's nothing in the law that says that there has to be any kind of like public education campaign, but everybody knows that if you just go out and say, okay, everybody start composting, it's going to be a disaster, And so there has to be a public, education campaign that goes with it. I mean, but to me that's almost obvious, but it's not written into the law, so like maybe there's some follow-up, tweaks to this law, or maybe, and all this feedback, I'm going to add, some of these points to the two-pager, like what in terms of, education, what is there, because I think that's a critical piece, not just an important piece, but a critical piece to the overall success of the program. And we're fighting the fight for a long time. Like when I started in this industry, I just accepted it. It's going to be a long battle, but it's worth it to engage and educate. Sometimes it's one person at a time, sometimes it's 100 at a time. But the more people that understand the good things about, repurposing your organic waste into compost and, energy potentially, I think the better.
Thanks, Marshall. Oh, Liz just popped her hand up.
Sure.
Sorry, do we have time for one more question, Sandy?
Yeah, let's keep going for another couple of minutes.
Okay. If you could, Marshall, could you tell us a little bit about the situation with end markets in your area and what's going on with that? Are people selling out? Are people having trouble selling their compost? Who's buying it? All that good stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a great question and critical. I think I briefly mentioned end markets before. We actually had the executive director for the USCC, Linda, as y'all probably know, Linda, reached out to us just the other day asking about like, are there DOT specs, calling for compost? And, directly from the mouth of somebody from the Virginia DOT, they said that they don't have any policy. They do have it in some of their, what is it, grading and in some of their water management, guidance. But I think that's a critical one, and that's something I'm going to advocate for. Is like spec. It needs to be spec'd on DOT projects, but the biggest buyers are probably ag. Places like sports turf. These are large buyers. Private construction, like we have a giant Lego manufacturing plant that's going in and like, I was on an email where they were like looking for an ungodly amount of compost. So, these are, kind of common areas where people are going to use lots of compost for, again, Virginia being a state with the Chesapeake Bay, like we have to pay attention to stormwater. And if we can use compost in a smart way that can reduce the load on the stormwater management system, then, that's another important end market that people often don't, think about. But agriculture obviously is, a big one. We make lots of peanuts and stuff here in Virginia. So, all those crops need nutrients, yeah. Does that answer your question? Okay.
All right, and Brian has his hand up. Let's take one more question and then we should probably move on.
All right. Well, each time somebody says something, it makes it more interesting and things to ask. I think I have an idea where you're going with the energy production, and personally, like I struggle with that because I guess are you really seeing enough organic material being digested to have a meaningful quantity of methane produced? But the last question, I think that like an add on to that is like, are you actually seeing like large scale farm application in tens or hundreds of acres or thousands of acres of application of organic material? That would be the best vision in the world I could ever have. But are you guys seeing that at all?
In terms of application on like tens of thousands of acres of like cropland.
Yeah, being tilled in with old tired soils that maybe are finding themselves to be too dry, not water retaining. The things that adding a compost to the soil the same way I do in my garden in my backyard with leaves and compost material, spring and fall, to help with water retention and nutrient rich status.
I would say Virginia is largely like most of the country is like addicted to petrochemical fertilizer, but there's more and more, kind of craft and artisanal, farmers and organic growers that are using the product. So certainly way more than it was, when I first started in this business. Just with the growth of the regenerative movement. And, I know philosophically a lot of people have a problem with AD, and I kind of stay out of it. I think, from somebody in the business, I'm kind of, like it's a reality. They're part of the equation. But, I know there's a lot of people that say, hey, you're still burning, a fuel that, creates carbon unnecessarily. So I don't disagree with that at all. I think that's a scientific fact that you're creating carbon when you burn methane. And, but it's kind of an argument that I stay out of from a business, point of view. But I'm team compost all day, I can tell you for sure.
For sure. And realistically, um, creating compost, it creates its own carbon dioxide emissions. Using Carbon Mapper, you can track large scale facility compost facilities to see their carbon emissions. Growing up on farmland in Wisconsin, yeah, chemical fertilizers are used, but still we sprayed manure and other materials into the soil as we were tilling every year. So that's where I was hoping to see that maybe there were some large scale applications like that we would be able to point to.
Not yet. And I'm looking for a good story to tell every day. So, I look forward to coming back at some point and giving y'all an update about how the law has progressed, because I think that's another important thing. Like I said, sometimes policies are created with the best of intentions, but when you put them in a real world scenario, there's kind of like, oh, we didn't think of that. Kind of like you're talking about with the post consumer, the BPI certified post consumer stuff. So I appreciate everybody's questions, and I'm going to take some of this feedback and integrate it into my talking points for the boards of supervisors and city councils throughout Virginia. Thank you guys.
That'd be great,
having
Marshall. We'd love to see that draft when you're ready with it too, if you don't mind sharing it
Sure,
along.
I'll be happy to share my slides. What's the best way to do that?
Actually, you already shared them with me, and I
Okay.
already linked them into the notes. So I did put a link up in the notes with the slides if anybody wants to refer to those. I see Clinton has his hands up, and if he can ask his question in 30 seconds, we're good to go.
I'm going to do better than that, Sandy. It's not a question. Hey, Marshall, good to see you. I just wanted to let you know that the USCC and the Marketing Development Committee has been working with the Virginia DOT and the Virginia DEQ on specification requirements for compost use. So hopefully you're going to start seeing some more stuff around that.
Great. Yeah, I know Linda had
Awesome.
just sent an email the other day, asking some questions about that. So glad to hear. I'm looking forward to seeing a letter of support from the USCC.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we'll be voting on that, Marshall?
That's right. You can already infer my vote.
Right? Totally. Well, thank you so much for coming, and thanks for all the great questions, team. This is awesome. Feel free to stick around if you want to, Marshall, for the rest of our fun. Feel free to drop out since it's the end of your day as well. That's great. And I did want to acknowledge, the chat conversation too, that, yeah, definitely and what Brian had brought up about the water conservation piece, it's definitely a big piece, but I think there's places and locations and situations for all these types of things to do. That it's not a one size fits all approach, right? So let's just leave it there. So, but as to having team compost or team digestate or team dehydration or whatever it is, I think all the teams need to play together in some way that makes sense for the area and the location personally. So, anyhow, just my 2 cents. But moving right along then into some of our Recycle Colorado updates. We're going to do some updates, first of all, from our friend Clinton, our board liaison to Recycle Colorado. Anything to share from your end?
I do. I need 10 seconds because I just moved emails going back. Someone tell a funny joke. Oh, shoot. Here we go. I'm almost there. 3 seconds. Okay. Hi, everybody. Clinton Sander, A1 Organics. Great to see everybody on the call. A couple updates coming over from Recycle Colorado. I think we're going to talk about this a little bit later, Sandy, but just a friendly reminder. The city of Denver has a sponsorship opportunity that could help cover the cost of the COTC training. There's a link in the agenda for any further information on this. So just wanted to remind everybody about that. That's a big deal. Mark your calendars for September 21st. That's the RC Recycle Colorado and Colorado SWANA networking happy hour, which will be at Rock Rest Lodge in Golden, Colorado. If you have ever been to Rock Rest Lodge, it's a lot of fun if you have not been there. So check that out. We'll make sure that's on the agenda so you have all that information. I just want to let you know that October 1st in Winter Park. Wait, sorry, hold on a second. Yeah, no, October 1st and October 2nd in Winter Park will be, no, stop. Let me start over. Brandy, what does GSD stand for? 2.0?
Depends on who you ask.
Thank you.
I think there's a bit of a rebrand this year for getting stuff done.
Oh, getting shit done. I'll say it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that's sorry, guys. Compost Colorado.
But officially,
Colorado
Clinton, we're calling it the COCC convening is what it's going to be, our annual convening going forward.
Oh, I like the GSD better. So yeah, again, guys, that's on Thursday, October 1st. And then Friday, October 2nd will be the annual meeting for Recycle Colorado. If you've never attended, we'd love to have you. I do sit on the Recycle Colorado board. So from Recycle Colorado side of the world, it'd be great to have everybody on this call attend that annual meeting. Applications are closed for the Recycle Colorado board, but at that annual meeting, you'll get to meet the new candidates and hear from them, which is always a really good time. And that is all I have right now, Sandy, coming over from Recycle Colorado.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing all that. And a lot of those events are already listed in the resource at the events at the end of the agenda as well. So there's just more information there. But that's fantastic. And I think I saw Julie on here earlier. I don't know if there's anything to share, Julie, as our financial liaison to Recycle Colorado. Didn't mean to put you on the spot, but if there is anything, that's great. If not, that's great too. So.
Yeah, just really briefly, because of all the incredible grant funding that COCC has been active on bringing in, and the great support that we've had from CAM, the board is going to be considering some budget adjustments through the end of the year, just so that we can incorporate those incoming grant funds and deploy them for staff capacity. So more to come on that. Is just kind of a primer to say that it's great to see these funds coming in, and hopefully have more capacity to work on organics projects at the COCC staff, or sorry, at the RC Recycle Colorado staff level.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Julie. Such good news. Money coming in. It's like, how often does that happen? This is happening, people. This is sweet. Nice work, everyone. Okay, cool. Moving on to our policy committee liaison, who is Rachel these days. Rachel has a few things to share with us for sure, and we'll be talking a little bit more about this later too, I'm sure. So
thanks, Sandy.
Take it away.
Hi, everyone. I think most of you are aware that we are doing a working group, a study group directed by the policy retreat from last June. We continue to look into organics diversion policy. So this is the same effort that we were working on last year, and we're just getting deeper and deeper into our understanding of different states' progress and formalizing. We actually have a draft strategy now. And if anyone is not already on the giant subcommittee looking at the policy ideas, we're meeting on Thursday morning to look through that draft policy and to kind of tighten it up before the September 3rd Greater Recycle Colorado Policy Committee meeting. So as a reminder, once the subcommittee likes it, then we will present that to the Recycle Colorado Policy Committee. It'll be sent out to the membership to vote on, and then it'll eventually go to the Recycle Colorado board to give a thumbs up, thumbs down on it. We are currently leaning towards a diversion requirement that would be phased in based on, we're still working it out, whether it's distance to a facility or population density of a county, with exemptions for, obviously, if you have a facility close to you, There's some low population density areas that do have facilities. And then also phasing in by generator waste tonnage. And after a conversation with someone from Massachusetts, I think it was last week, really great suggestion that we focus the enforcement on the generators, so requiring generators to have the service to divert and to actually be diverting. And then CDPHE would really partner with the landfills and the haulers to get the information about which generators maybe are not in compliance. So CDPHE wouldn't be just working at the landfills, and they would not have, you know, hundreds or thousands of folks they're intervening with. They would be really working with, you know, whoever shows up at Liz's landfill that she's like, hey, they're not in compliance. CDPHE would help her out. So that's kind of the direction that draft is going. Again, if you want to be part of that policy review and you're not already on the calendar for Thursday, Cam, I'm throwing you under the bus. Let Cam know when she can get you the invitation. And then also, I hope that you will all come to that policy meeting on September 3rd and cheer for compost policy. And yeah, I think that is the main piece of it. Another supporting piece, if y'all were at the policy retreat, you heard us talking about how Recycle Colorado really needs to build up our legislative champions. With Senator Cutter not running again, and some of our other champions either being termed out or just choosing not to run again, we're really rebuilding our support. Obviously, we're going to have a new governor that we'll want to build support with. So we are in the process of doing a couple tours of compost facilities. Some of you are on this call. So really teaching legislators about the value of compost and of diverting edible food first, making sure that goes to humans to eat. So really trying to get them tied in with that, and to really know that we are the folks to talk to if you want to run policy on food and composting and the use of compost. I think I got it all. Nina or Brandy or anyone else, if I'm forgetting anything, please pop in, or if anyone has questions.
I think we're good. I'm seeing some thumbs up. I think that about covered it. Feeling really a lot of really cool policy momentum in Colorado right now. So we have an awesome team moving forward on it. We can always use more minds and hands on it. So please feel free to join.
Sandy, if I can say one more thing. Just
Sure.
to echo what Clinton said about that COCC convening, hopefully by then we'll already have a green light from the board on whatever the decision is. And we really, part of that convening, we will use to really dive into the details of, you know, the kind of abstract policy, but really working out the kinks so that we know what will hopefully become a policy.
Yes, it is a working convening for sure. So come prepared. We should have registration. Sorry?
Can I say something to that real quick?
Oh yeah, sure, Clinton. Sorry, I didn't see your hand.
It's okay. I just want to re-support the COCC because that meeting happened last year, and everybody on this call that was at that meeting has that momentum has moved to where we are now. So we just want to continue to accelerate that momentum. And so if you hadn't had the chance to attend that meeting, it was fantastic, and it needs to continue. So please come, because it's worth it, and just come. It's a really good time.
Totally. I'm guessing the registration information for the meeting will probably be available within a week or so. Is that accurate-ish, Cam, Allie? I know that we had been talking about that. And obviously the annual meeting for Recycle Colorado information is already out there, and we're going to similarly get our COCC convening information out there in a similar fashion pretty soon too. So watch out for that. Okay, are we good from the Recycle Colorado side to move on to the national level and talk a little bit about USCC and Compost Research Education Foundation? Not seeing any hands. Well, Allie would like to say something real quick.
I did work on the registration for the Get Shit Done meeting. So I'll put it in the chat so people can register. And we did it so that if you are a COCC member, it is $15. And then if you are not a COCC member, but you're a Recycle Colorado member, it is $20 to attend. Okay, cool. And like
Perfect.
they said,
thank you.
don't sign up unless you're ready to sign up for a task or a duty. This is getting shit done.
Yeah.
So anyways. in the chat.
Absolutely. Getting shit done.
Yeah.
Perfecto. Awesome. And it looks like we're getting that link into the agenda as well, so we can refer back to it later, those of us that don't have time to register at the moment. So awesome. Okay, moving right along. I am, as I mentioned at the top, also our representative to the United States Composting Council's Legislative and Environmental Affairs Committee. So I'm going to give a quick report on that. It is going to be pretty high level because we've actually been a pretty busy group on the national level as well. And Marshall's still here, so if he wants to throw anything in, he shares his time on LEAC as well. But just briefly, since the last report, so our Q3 report now, we have filed a couple of comment letters for the draft Vermont solid waste management rules and for the Washington State Organic Materials Management Plan and Ecology's rulemaking there in Washington. So those are letters that have been done and filed by the USCC. On our radar for future support, our new USDA rulemaking on compost production for organic agriculture. There are also proposed revisions to the NRCS Code 336 Conservation Practice Standard Soil Carbon Amendment on the horizon that we're watching. The Pennsylvania DEP has proposed PFAS in biosolids limits that we're also looking at and talking about. There is, at this point, also, excitedly enough, a National Truth in Labeling Act up there at the national level to work on compostable packaging labeling law. And kind of peripherally related to that, we are learning from the CMA right now that they're petitioning the National Organics Program to accept compostable bin liners as part of their program. So this is a really new thing that we're just starting to talk about, and Susan Tillman came and talked to us about that last week at our meeting. So all stuff on our radar right now. Also in the past quarter, we have had some meetings with the Passive Receiver Coalition. For those that aren't aware of what that is, the Passive Receiver Coalition is a group of public and private entities that advocate for the legal protections for organizations that indirectly receive PFAS, i.e. composters, ensuring that the polluter pays principle is maintained. So USCC is very active in that coalition. There also is a subgroup of the LEAC committee, which is the PFAS task force. And really, it's the Wild West out there, state by state, around PFAS legislation in the absence of really any kind of federal attention or guidance. So we're trying to make sense about that every month that we talk about it. And we get that task force meetings, those meetings together as needed to talk about what's happening in various states around the country and how we can support or offer comments or do whatever we need to do to protect composters from this, the passive receiver aspect of PFAS in finished compost. So lots of action around that all the time. Just as an FYI for folks, the USCC has hired a new lobbyist. So a gentleman named Michael Parr with a company named Hill Staffer is now the lobbyist for the USCC. So we're just getting to know him, and he's joining our meetings on occasion. And then over the past quarter, there's been some active Compost Action Center campaigns. Regarding the Farm Bill and wanting to include the Brownlee Compost Amendment with that, regarding getting folks to have their representatives sign up for the Compost Caucus and urging them to join that. There's also the Recycling Infrastructure and Accessibility Act, which is also a companion House bill to the Senate Stewart Act. So there's a bunch of legislation out there that we're just trying to get USCC and other members to support right now. So I know that Alex is putting some stuff into the chat here, trying to check for notes. Okay, so yes, it's been a busy quarter, busy 3 months at the USCC. I will try to answer any questions if there are any. And in the meantime, I'm going to see if this translates to the chat very well. But one of our members, I'm going to put the credit in here too, has always reminding us that composting is a bipartisan thing. So we always need to remember that when we're, sorry, I'm trying to do too many things at once here. We always need to remember that when we're talking about legislation. So Black Earth Compost created this cool little cartoon, which I just thought might be fun to share with the team. So, that all being said, I don't know if Marshall was listening or not. I see his square still. Alex, please jump in, and if Marshall has anything to add, he can as well.
Thanks, Eddie. You covered so much. There's a lot going on. I just wanted to add one more thing because you mentioned the NOSB and the CMA proposal. So there are sort of like multiple pathways that have been proposed to resolve the organic rules at the federal level. So obviously you have to get certification to sell your compost to an organic farmer, and those inputs are limited based on rules that were written almost 30 years ago. So there are a number of different ways in which those rules can be updated. One of those is through the national list process with the NOSB, but that's sort of one of a choose your own adventure set of pathways that the USDA is now officially taking a look at. So the ANPR, I saw, let's see, yeah, sorry, a lot of acronyms. ANPR stands for Advance Notice of Proposed Rulemaking. So it's basically USDA saying, hey, we're going to be considering a set of possible resolutions over the next few months. And then NOSB being the National Organic Standards Board, which is not part of the federal government, but it's an advisory board that provides expertise and a lot of perspective from the organics industry to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And so they control this process called the National List, where they can vote to add things that are then allowable into compost for organic agriculture. A lot of you know this world better than I do. But what this USDA announcement recently is significant, I think, is because they have basically told us, and we've been waiting for years, at least speaking for BPI, they're finally going to make a decision about updating these rules. The different options they're considering in combination include a vote that was recently held this spring by the NOSB related to compostable products and other synthetic inputs. There's sort of a pathway that involves like a hybrid approach for like some de minimis amounts of certain things like fertilizers and herbicides. And then there's our petition that we submitted back in 2022 that takes a slightly different approach and uses ASTM standards as the basis for deciding whether a product can be allowed or not. They basically said, starting in January, we're going to take 60 days, we'll take public comment, and then starting in August next year, so 2027, we're going to start the final rulemaking process. So basically, everyone who's like, when is the USDA going to update their rules? We finally have a date. It's August 2027. That is the beginning of the process, which itself could be many months or years even. But it's the first official sign we've had that we might get updates to these rules that have been around for almost 30 years, which I think could really open up opportunities potentially for composters here, especially those who are selling into organic markets. So sorry for all the acronyms, but thought it worth mentioning.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Alex. I know you're in the thick of it and know way more about all of that than I do. So that was super helpful. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions or any comments they want to share? I see that there's some notes in the chat for folks. Yep, more PFAS conversations. Okay. All right, great. Let's move along then. So I'm going to put Sean up next to talk about, well, first of all, let me just ask you, Sean, I don't think there have been any state legislative committee meetings, have there?
No, they stopped doing them kind of after the session, so they're taking a break right now.
Got it. Okay, perfect. But in the future, I'll probably hit you up for info on those if that works out. But in the meantime, why don't you take us away on talking about the COTC, or the Compost Operations Training Course?
Yes, thank you. Okay, I tried to be prepared. And so since there's a lot of people on this call, I'll just do a quick overview. The Compost Operations Training Course is a week-long 40-hour class that is conducted by the Compost Research and Education Foundation. And this class qualifies you for one of the requirements of getting the US Compost Council's Compost Operations Manager certification or the Compost Professional certification. This class also, just completing this class, helps you to complete the requirements from the CDPHE for operating a compost facility in Colorado as well. So our Compost Colorado Composting Council has worked really hard to try to make this an annual thing in our state. And we've been able to successfully have it here. I think this is the third year in a row, right? Yeah. So we work really hard to make sure that the class still comes back, and I'm the facilitator of the class, so you guys can ask me questions if you have about the class in general. But I will we'll send out a flyer for the class in the follow-up. Is that right? And so I just wanted to give you guys some information on where we're at with getting attendance and sponsors for the class. So in this, by having this class in our state, one, it brings training to locally to our composters, and our compost professionals, which is really great here. And two, it's a really big opportunity for fundraising for our chapter. And so the more local sponsors that we get as a chapter, the more of that sponsorship percentage comes back to us and right into our bank account. So this is the harder we work on this is really, really valuable, because this can be a big fundraiser, but if we as a chapter and every individual on this call doesn't do their part in trying to get sponsors, then we miss that opportunity. We really don't make anything from having it here, but it's still a benefit to have for the training potential. So I just wanted to go over that real quick and tell you what the sponsorship opportunities are. So we can get meal sponsors, so people can sponsor for $1,000, and they would be like a meal sponsor, and then they would get featured on all of the flyers and advertising and webpage and on the binders that all the students take home with them. Or we can get equipment sponsors, and that's $2,000 for an equipment dealer to sponsor, and then they would get all of those same things plus the opportunity to demonstrate their equipment directly to their direct audience of composters too. So it's a really great opportunity for those sponsors. So if anybody has ideas for sponsors, that would be great. We have a running list of ideas for sponsors, and we're looking for people to sign up to actually go ahead and get those sponsors secured. Once you get somebody who's interested in being a sponsor, we send them to Kelsey from the Compost Research and Education Foundation, and she kind of closes the deal for us. So you don't have to worry about how to go about doing, finalizing all the paperwork and stuff. It's really just getting those people interested and getting them pushed our way to try to get them secured. There are a few sponsors that are national sponsors that we cannot ask for double sponsorship. So I think that's worth mentioning, and just making sure that we don't double ask them, because they already donate on a national level to the program. And so that would be Viably or Comtech, which is always a really big supporter, but they're already a supporter, so we can't go to them again. Sustainable Generations or Gore Cover is also already a sponsor. Finn Corporation is a sponsor, and Rio Temp is a sponsor. And so those are our national sponsors. At this time, we only have one sponsor confirmed for our Colorado chapter, for our state sponsor, and that is Eco Products. Huge thanks to Megan before she left her position to reach out and make sure that we got supported in this. So that was super awesome that she made sure to in her final days at Eco Products. Megan is moving on to another role, and I'm sorry I don't have an update of that. If anybody wants to share.
I think she's moving to the Circular Action Alliance.
Thank you.
Yeah, she's going to be their compostable products specialist at CAA. I have to look up what her actual title is, but
I know. Sorry, I don't have the email. Yeah, CAA. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, and there is some new people that she's sent from Eco Products that are going to be joining us and taking her place. I'm not sure if anybody's here from Eco Products on this call, but they will still be engaged. And she gave us she gave good words for the next person who's going to be coming in behind her. And Megan will still be engaged too, just in a different role. Oh, cool. Okay, check out the chat for more information on that. And Then, okay, so sponsors. So that's the only one we have confirmed and looking for more. And good candidates for sponsors are definitely equipment vendors and equipment dealers. And we're going to be in Denver, so there's a lot of options around there for equipment dealers. Also, any local haulers or composters can be good options. And then also like hardware stores and anyone who kind of serves the garden and compost community as well have been sponsors in the past and local institutions of education and stuff like that. So any other ideas we're open to. And now I'm going to move on to registration. So this is also really important, unless there's any other questions on sponsorship before I move on. Okay, I'm trying to be more organized when you put me on the spot here. So I'm moving on to registration now. And currently, so we can take up to 42 participants. And in the past, I've been doing this for 3 years as the facilitator. And before me, this program's been going on for 17 years. And we have always sold out of these classes. But as you all know, things are a little different the past couple of years. The economic and political climate is just a little different, and we have not been selling out of classes, and we have actually had to cancel a few classes that were scheduled. So we had one scheduled in Indiana this summer, and we were not able to get enough registration to make it happen. So I want to make sure that that doesn't happen in Colorado, and I don't think it will. But at this time, we only have 6 people registered for this class. So I think people have been saying they want to register and they're planning on registering, but we need to reach out to our networks and anyone on this call who's kind of was going to do it but hasn't done it yet. Let's make sure and get that registration in so that we can make sure to move forward with this class. We've already done a bunch of work to make it happen. It's going to be at the National Western Center in Denver, and it's going to be right where Coco does their composting in that same building right around the corner. So it's a really cool location, and the hotel is that is reserved is in Rhino. So we're going to have a fun time getting together in Rhino every evening, and we'll kind of be central to be able to tour some really different things. We've been to Fort Collins a lot of times, and there's really good tours up there. So we're going to do something a little different going to Denver. And thank you. Marshall said he went to it in North Carolina, and he gives us good props. So sign up if you haven't done it yet. We do have a great list of speakers. As always, we have Clinton and Rutger and Robbie have all confirmed that they will be speaking for us and helping to educate our fellow and future composters. And so, oh, thank you, Liz. Liz just posted the sign up on there. That's really important. And so as I was saying, we need to get, so I asked Kelsey to give me like, what are their numbers of what's our minimum we need to get? And she said that due to this last year, they have implemented a minimum goal to have 15 people registered by 1 month out. So that would be by September 19th. We need to have 15 people registered. And right now we have 6. So we have 1 month to get 9 more people registered. And then we will know that we can move on with the class. And Brandy just put, oh, thank you for telling everybody what Rhino is a fun neighborhood in Denver where we're all going to be staying. And even if you live in Denver, then you can still come hang out with us. And so just spread the word on registration. I think right now that's number 1 is getting people registered. Number 2 is getting local sponsors so that our chapter gets more kickback. I am still finalizing some other details on tours, but I think you guys are all on board. I just didn't get that all updated to be able to share it all with you yet. And it's going to be a really good one. It always is good in Colorado. Always. We have such a great group here, and a lot of people from the chapter come out. And because it's in Denver, Thursday night is always the networking Thursday. And so it's the week of October 19th, if I didn't say that. And Thursday night of that week is kind of always our big party to finalize. And we like to invite the chapter and, so that everybody can come out and get together and meet future composters. Usually about half of the class is from the hosting state. So half is from Colorado and the other half is from all over the world. Usually in every class, we have international people too. So people come from all over the world to do this and learn and be a part of future emerging leaders. And a lot of people who come are really, really well versed in compost and super smart. So we learn from each other, and it's really great. I think that's all I have to say. I'm available if anybody has questions about it.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean. Well said, all of it. So let's push those registrations. Let's push those sponsorships. Let's make this happen. We need to make this happen every year. Oh,
I'm sorry,
go
one
ahead.
more thing that Clinton already said, but the city of Denver, I want to just repeat Clinton. What Clinton said is the city of Denver, it does have a reimbursement program to pay people back for the total cost of the program fee. And so there is quite a few of those that have not been used yet to our knowledge. And if anybody who lives, works, or goes to school in the city of Denver, you are eligible for that rebate. So that is a really great opportunity too. If you're kind of on the fence, but you don't know, you should take advantage of that because they've never offered that before. And that's something new.
Right.
And
I don't think a lot of others.
I want to also say, Jace, if there's anybody in CDPHE or Circular or C3 or anything that you think should go, push them to go, because I know there's been a lot of talk about wanting to be more knowledgeable in the composting. So it's not just for composters, it's any compost professional or anybody in the world. So I think we have an opportunity to also just reach out to, other than our regular network of composters, try to think outside the box and think of anybody else who might want to go. I've already sent it to the Department of Agriculture, to the Colorado Department of Agriculture, and they are going to send it around as well. And so also trying to just like marry that, those friends in agriculture too. Okay.
Fantastic. And I dropped the link not only in the notes, but also in the chat for the Denver's training rebate program. So yeah, which is really great. I don't think a lot of other states have had that opportunity for the COTC. So this is pretty cool. And we want to spend all of Denver's money on that. So let's do it. All right, very good. We shall move along just to a quick announcement while we're talking about the Compost Research and Education Foundation. That recent news from them is that the 2027 International Compost Awareness Week theme has just been announced. All paths lead to compost is our theme for 2027, and that is ICAW, International Compost Awareness Week, will be May 2nd through 8th, 2027. The poster and bookmark contest is open and live as we speak, since they have just announced the theme and the contest. So if you feel artistic and you want to see if you can have your art shown on the 2027 ICAW poster, submit it by October 15th. And there's a link in the notes for that as well. And perhaps, oops, and Evan has dropped a video in the chat that I don't have time to watch at the moment, but I'm gonna have to try that out. So cool. The COTC video that he made. Yes, I have seen it. It's awesome. Really, really cool. Very good. Okay. Gotta quit reading the chat and get back to facilitating. Oh, stop. Okay. Moving right along then. Thank you for your patient waiting, Erica. We have her kind of towards the end of the agenda. Maybe in the future we'll put it towards the top, but she's going to share an update with us around her project for the C3 grant that she got at Delta Compost. Take it away, Erica.
All right. Okay, cool. I'll just give super quick background in case anybody doesn't know who we are. I'm Erica Sparhawk. I'm the CEO of Delta Compost. We're a Class 3 facility located in Delta, Colorado. It's about 50 miles south of Grand Junction, for those of you who haven't been out to that part of the state. Delta County has Paonia, which you may have been for peaches, Hotchkiss, Delta and Cedar Edge, which is how you get up to the Grand Mesa, or one of the ways to get up to the Grand Mesa, just to give you some context. So we've been operating for 4 years. We take all kinds of feedstocks. I see if anybody was at the Grand Junction COTC, you guys came and toured our facility. And so we have liquid waste and septic and grease trap waste. We take biosolids. We get most of our food waste currently from the Kroger's on the western slope. And then we get some like food processing waste, including animal processing waste, animal mortalities, and then we just started getting a juice maker. So we're not us making juice, but a local juice producer, and actually he's calling us every day to go pick up stuff. He's really close to us. And so we're getting all of the liquids and the like spent, peach mash from their juice processing. So, and that's all to give context in that we also accept compostables. The only compostables we currently receive are from Mount Crested Butte and Vail Resorts, and they do really good separation. And then there's events in Telluride. If anybody knows of the big music events in Telluride, they have really active volunteers who do the composting, and so we receive those dumpsters of all of the compostables. And there's a little bit of food waste collection going on in Telluride and Mountain Village, which is about 90 miles away from us, and we do receive that waste right now. But other than that, there isn't any other food collection going on anywhere in Delta or Montrose counties. So that's all the lead up to say. So our C3 grant had 2 components to it. And we are thrilled and super grateful to be able to receive this kind of grant. So our grant request was for 2 aspects. That's to start doing some food waste hauling in Paonia, Hotchkiss, Delta, and Montrose. And so thanks to Julie and Jamie, I've been reaching out to other folks who do small scale hauling to get their tips as we get these set up. But the grant is providing a couple trucks for us. Funding for carts, funding for dumpsters, and one of the trucks is a roll-off truck to be able to haul dumpsters. So that's that aspect. And then we really took the circular economy seriously as well, and as other composters know. So the other part of our grant request was to help us get more compost out into all of the fields. We're in an ag-rich community. And a couple barriers that we were finding on the western slope is, so we have semi trucks, we do hauling with big semis, but we didn't have the vessel to go deliver compost. We do hauling of liquid waste in tanker trucks, but we've got the drivers, and we weren't able to find any other drivers. Whenever we booked other third-party drivers, they would be 3 to 6 weeks out and kind of fitting in a compost delivery for us here and there. So, we were finding local ag who were interested, and we didn't have the means to be able to deliver compost to them. So part of our request is a large trailer and another semi truck, because our other ones are all busy bringing us waste. And then the biggest item was getting a trommel screen and a stacker to help us move material at our site and actually be able to screen our finished compost. So really increasing our processing efficiency so that we're not waiting to rent a screen a couple times a year. And that'll also help with our moisture retention. For those of you who've been to our facility, I mean, everywhere is dry in Colorado. It's really dry at our facility, and we have no access to clean water. So we're trying to do everything we can to retain moisture through our processing, and being able to screen a little sooner in our process instead of waiting till we rent a screen will really help us improve the quality of our compost. And then the other aspect, which we're excited about, and I know A1 has done this, but we have some compost spreaders that we've included. in our request, and that is some that are great for like 1 acre, folks who have just kind of a large yard. But we specifically included a compost spreader that works in, it's a narrow spreader that works in orchards and vineyards. And that's what we are rich with in our part of the state. And so we're really excited. That should be delivered either the end of this week or next week. And we already have people booked to get compost delivered from us later this fall and to use our compost spreaders that we have arriving soon. So we're putting our, the grant funded items to work right away and super excited about it. But it's, and we have other actually composters in the area who have already asked if, their customers could rent the compost spreaders from us. So there is a demand for that in our area because we don't have any landscape companies who are doing it, and there's none of the ag rental places have any compost spreaders. So we're excited to help everybody get more compost out into our soils. But that's a quick summary. Happy to answer any questions. Would love to give anybody tours if you want to come out and see where we're at now. So yeah, that's about it.
Thanks a lot, Erica. That's amazing. I'm so glad you guys are just taking it and running. That's awesome.
Thanks.
So, couple of questions coming up. Brian, you're first.
Yeah, I in hearing you talk about the shipping equipment, heard you talk about semis and trailers, but it seems to me that I would be using a dump truck. Have you guys looked into that? Because I mean, like, even like when we would load grain, we would use a dump truck to, haul it from the field to the silo sometimes.
Yeah, we can haul more with a trailer with our semi truck. So if we're hauling it a long distance, we can get 20 to 30 tons in our semi truck and still be by our weight limits instead of it being maxed at like 10. So for us, it's an efficiency of getting a lot. A good example is we had an oil and gas reclamation project, and they needed, 350 yards. That's and they're an hour and a half away from us. So for us, it makes sense for who we're reaching. It makes sense for us to use a semi truck.
Got you. Okay. And was that in county or was that like out of county?
That was a different county.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, go ahead, Sean.
Oh, I'm just so excited. Erica, thank you so much for sharing that. And I wanted to add to that excitement because I'm sending you an email right now, Erica, but we have there's a US Compost Council grant that we got to do a compost study in Colorado, California, and Washington. Took us a year to kind of get our things going because of weird federal funding things, but it is moving now. And one of the places where we're doing that, one of the first places is in Palisade on some peach orchards, and we're planning on using Erica's compost there. And so having that equipment to spread that is really, really valuable. And that is something that we have also seen as a challenge to get the compost on the land is the equipment to get it out there and do it. There is, and Brian, just to kind of comment on your dump truck, there's lots of dump trucks around. So those are pretty easy to rent usually locally. It's like the larger quantities that it's harder to move around usually. And then getting the equipment to the site too, having the right equipment and getting it there. So we're really excited about this. And we're hoping that the different farms, we can have demonstrations of different types of composts and, but that application equipment and Erica having all that stuff really makes them easy person for us to work with as the people trying to get the compost out on the land. So I just wanted to add to that good news. That is so exciting. Thank you.
Can I follow up to that, Sean? I'm confused about this slightly because Mason County has excess quantities of material.
We're going to be using their compost too.
Oh, so you're using both?
Yep, yep. We're gonna use a different compost on each orchard so that we have lots of data and lots of because we're trying to look at water holding potential, and it's a research study. So the more data and the more things that we have, where some variables are very static, like the application rates, and then the different types of composts will help us have different variables about understanding like if different feedstocks or different types of composts hold water differently than others.
Yeah, and our compost is very different than Mesa's. So, and they're partners of us. They're excited to, it's actually them who reached out, and we're excited about our spreaders as well because they've got customers that have kind of received compost and then don't have a way to put it on the land. So,
This is so exciting. Thank you, Erica, for sharing. And Sean, I'm really excited about this study. Can we have results from both of these projects like 10 years ago, please? When do you think you might start having some results
Yeah,
that we
this
can
is
start
a
sharing?
thank you, Rachel. I didn't even bring that up in my updates for you guys. I'm sorry, but quickly, it's a 5-year study. We got started a little bit late, so we're just got the first 3 sites in Palisade. Just did their baseline sampling and hoping to get the compost out there this fall. And then I do need some front range sites, so I've been in touch with Jess from A1 because A1 has a lot of connection with farmers already. But if any composters are working with farmers on the front range, we still have 18 more farms that we have to sign up in the next year. So we're still actively looking for farmers, and I've been recently sending that out through the Department of Agriculture and the conservation districts. At first, I sent stuff out and got some interest, but then we weren't really ready to do it. And so now that we're actually doing it, I need to go back to getting the interest forms out again. So it's kind of this like push and pull.
Sean, can you share in the chat a link to more information or something? What would it take for a farmer? Is there a
Yeah.
cost to them, or like is there a
Nope.
certain size
They
you're
actually
looking for?
So it just pays for the compost, the trucking, and the time. There's a certain amount per farm. It's up to $12,000 per farm, and depending on the acreage and the size, but that can cover the compost, the trucking, and the farmer's time to put it down.
And last question, what if the farmers are doing on-farm composting?
It has to be STA certified compost. So if they are doing on-farm composting and it is STA certified, then we can utilize that compost. Absolutely. Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Hey, Sean, do you think it would be useful for us to push out information through the COCC's channels too, socials and newsletter and stuff? Not exactly, I don't know how many farmers we have as members, but
maybe it'll be a good way for farmers to start getting in touch too. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I wasn't planning on bringing it up this meeting because I'm so like drowning in baseline sampling and working with the farms that I am on. That's why you haven't seen me in 3 weeks or 3 months. But that's a really good idea, Sandy. I'll definitely get that info to you. And especially now that we're ready to start bringing on more farmers. Thanks.
Yeah, awesome. Feel free to send
you
it
pictures.
to me and to Cam too. So,
cool. Yeah, I'll send you guys
yeah.
pictures so we can put it on our social media too, and just like talk about the cool things that we're doing with compost on the land.
That would be awesome. Yeah, thanks. All right, wow. So there's just so much momentum in so many different ways going on with composting in Colorado right now. This is pretty feel good meeting going on here. Thanks, everyone. Cool. Does anybody have any more questions for Erica or for Sean, or comments, questions, kudos, anything else to bring up before we move on again? Going to give it the obligatory awkward 5 seconds while we wait for any hands. And
I'll do something. Hi, Sandy.
Yeah, I knew you would swoop in, Clinton.
Well, I'm just going to touch base on the spreading information there. Yeah, A1 did, I put it in the chat, A1 did rent spreaders for about 5 years, but we've been transitioning to trying to build up small businesses along the Colorado Front Range that are doing this as a service. And at this moment, we now have 3 along the Colorado Front Range that are actually active spreading compost spreaders. So I put a link in there. We share their information through our website, which is really exciting. And then we have two Northern Colorado rental agencies that have now picked up spreaders, so you can go rent them. One of them's a Great Eco, or what is it? Earth Turf, which is a drop spreader, not a fan spreader. Different couple kind of spreaders out there, but again, it's great. We're getting movement and trying to continue to build that side of the industry so that we have applicators all over the state that can provide this service. So good stuff.
Awesome. Let's spread it. All right. So cool. Liz, I know I did not mention that I was going to hit you up on the agenda, but I thought while we're talking about updates that there may be some folks on this call that weren't aware about Glenwood Springs' new ordinance. And, not a lot of detail, but feel free to share what you know and what's happening if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem, Sandy. This is just another exciting momentum thing to add to all these really great things that people are doing. So I am going to put a link in the chat to just the text of the code that we updated if people want to look at it. So some background on this is, so about 2 years ago, the city of Glenwood we got a USDA grant, which helped us double the size of our class 3 composting facility. And we are pretty similar to Erica's Delta Compost in the feedstocks we take. We take lots of feedstocks, we take liquid feedstocks, we take food waste, and we take compostable products. But we wanted to expand our space, so we did, and which is great, and it's been lovely, but we have the capacity to take more food waste. And we know from data we collected during that USDA grant that less than 5% of the restaurants in our city are composting or doing any form of diversion for organics. So just this past month in July, our Glenwood City Council actually passed an ordinance which is going to require organics diversion for in 3 phases. So the first phase will be restaurants by May 2027. The second phase will be all commercial retail. And so like for us, that's we have a Walmart, we have a Target, we have a lot of places like that. So it'll be requiring organics diversion for those. And then in 2029, it requires organics diversion for multifamily housing. So at that point, and we already have a city program that covers trash and recycling for all residential. So basically by 2029, we probably will add organics to that, which we don't need an ordinance to do. So by 2029, it should cover everybody. That's the gist of it. So if anybody, yeah, thanks, Erica. So yeah, if anybody has any questions about that, feel free and just put your hand up and whatever, but it's going to be kind of interesting. Basically, the approach we're taking to rolling this out will be very one-on-one because we only have, so like I have a spreadsheet with all the restaurants in Glenwood on it. There's like 75. And it's just, we're just going to one by one go to, because so we already one by one go to every restaurant to talk to them once a year, every year about their grease traps and servicing them and inspecting them. So we're just going to add this to that interaction and start having a conversation with them about composting, basically is how that's going to work. So it's going to be a very specialized rollout procedure, I would say. Go ahead, Rachel.
I was typing notes at the same time. Yeah. 2 questions. One, why did you not target the large retail generators from the beginning? And 2, I can't remember, so answer that one and I'll remember the other one.
Okay. Because so there is some more backstory here. In 2023, 2024, as part of that previous USDA grant, we actually already did do a pilot program with restaurants where we offered restaurants the opportunity to compost for free and talk to all of them about composting and made sure they knew what it was and they had the opportunity. So they're the generators in our community who've like already had outreach and already know about it. So that's why we decided to do them first. Because they're sort of with the retail, it would be more of a starting from scratch thing. So we were like, we'll start with this and then we'll go to retail.
And then
Yeah.
my other question was, is there any allowance for food donation of edible food to count towards diversion, or is this really specific to composting?
Yeah, so this is just it's not a composting ordinance, it is an organics diversion ordinance. So however, if they can divert however they want to divert, we'll be fine as long as they're diverting it. Yeah. Go ahead, Sean.
Thank you. I was wondering if I'm sorry, I was trying to read it so that I wasn't asking a question that's all in there. But is there any like education requirement from the haulers or from the city? Because I know you have like an education component, but I don't see it in like the words. And also the enforcement piece. Can you just talk a little bit about education enforcement and how you married that in, or if that's something that kind of comes later because this is just the regulation and then that part comes in the contracting piece?
Yeah, basically we didn't put anything. Well, we did, but we didn't. It's complicated. We didn't really put a lot of stuff about education in the actual ordinance. Basically, what's going to happen is we put stuff in the ordinance about, if we're noticing problems with a certain generator, we put in the ordinance that they are required to let city staff or haulers that the city designates come into their workspace and educate their employees. So we're going to give everybody the chance to do it right on their own, basically. But then if they're not doing it, there is language in the ordinance that says, well, the city staff are going to come in and retrain you if you haven't done it right.
And I did see something in there that said that like it's enforceable, but I didn't get to read further to see like what that is. But it said that like things can be enforced.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, this is just it's a part of it's just written into a part of our city code. So it's literally a part of the same section of our city code that regulates like illegal dumping. So like if you don't do this and you refuse to divert your organics from your trash, you'd get the same penalty as you would get if you like illegally dump trash in a ravine.
Okay, got it.
So,
Yeah. So it has to be kind of general because it's just part of the law. Yeah.
Mhm.
Cool. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Should be exciting.
Yeah, thanks, Liz.
Yeah, no problem.
Any other questions or comments for Liz? All right, well, we are getting into the home stretch here, folks. Thanks for sticking with us. Just the next section of the agenda is just pointing out a couple of resources. We've talked a little bit about the Circular Communities Enterprise already, and I think that Hannah also put some more information into the chat about that. But we just want to make sure that that right now really is probably the most accessible grant program for composters and compost programs in Colorado. So please check it out if you're in the need for funding, as of course most people are always. Okay, and we got a little update in the chat that I'll have to read in a moment, but thanks for being here, Kaylin. And then also, this got added to our agenda a little earlier on in our agenda development, so I'm not as clear on what's going on with the yard waste recycling voucher program in Adams County. Do any of my fellow members know what's happening with that enough to talk to it at all? Or
Andy, that's
Clinton,
me.
yes,
That's
yay,
me.
Clinton.
Yeah. Can we click on the link and share screen? Maybe. While you're doing that, I'll just kind of talk about this. This has been a pet project over at A1 for probably a year and I don't know, year and a half, I would say this started. But we were able, A1 Organics was able to work with Adams County and provide a voucher program for unincorporated residents that runs throughout the year. Every resident, unincorporated resident, can get up to two $85 vouchers to put towards organics recycling, specifically yard trimmings, that type of material. And the program runs, just continually runs. They can bring the material down to our Commerce City facility for processing, and then the resident would pay anything additional over the top of five, basically it's 5 yards. So anything over the top of that, then the resident would pay any additional cost associated. But it's what's really great about it, not only is it a nice size voucher to help really support the cost or just support the haul potentially within there. But the other part of this for anybody working within the city area or the county level, I think Nina, you might be able to speak to this for a second, but there's a program that you guys use within the government spaces, or you too, Sandy, it's called Retrack. And this integrates right into that program so that we can successfully verify the resident very quickly. We can track all of the incoming organics. We can track the costs. We can verify the voucher number. And it makes it really seamless and very efficient on both ends, which is what we really were trying to accomplish, is how can we track this, monitor it, verify it, make sure it's happening correctly. And then that way, if you're needing to report back to supervisors, board members, city officials, you name it, you have all the information you really need so that it can be put into a budget line. And so far, I didn't want to say anything. It's been running for about 2 to 3 months now, and we've had really good traction. The residents are really excited. They're really happy about the program, and it's been really helping support that area where potentially there is no collection, potentially they don't have a resource to get to, or they don't have the funding to do it just yet. And we're off and running, and we're really excited about it. So there you go. If you have any questions, please reach out. I'd be happy to talk to you about it.
Great, thanks, Clinton. It would be great. Why don't you drop a link in the chat for the program as well? I mean, I can actually probably do it pretty quick even while I'm talking to you, since I've already got it up here. Why don't I just do that super fast? There it is. Okay, sweet.
Oh,
awesome.
And let me say one more thing. And so some of you people might know Katie Keefe over at Adams County. She's the sustainability manager director over there. She's the partner that Katie and I have been working together on. So Katie Keefe, I'd be happy to connect you to her too if you have any questions from her side of it as well.
Perfect.
Good stuff.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, so the remainder of our agenda is a list of upcoming meetings and events that has been getting longer over the past several days as we've been adding things to it. And I feel like I still forgot to put something on it, but I'm hoping everybody's actually looking at it. I can go through it briefly. I just want to share, though, that some of these events the COCC will be tabling at and are sponsoring. Other ones, of course, are our annual convening that's coming up, the annual meetings, some other, the climate summit. I don't know if everybody's looking at it or not, but I'll just go through it super quick since we have a little bit of time. So the first one is on September 17th or September 16th in Westminster. It's the 2026 Water Conservation Symposium put on by WaterWise, and our friend Cam will be tabling there for the COCC. We are buying a sponsorship to be there and talk with folks about the water retention qualities of compost. So hopefully we will make a dent in some membership goals there would be great, and just to get the word out, really. We talked a little bit about the SWANA conference before. Oh yeah, that's what I didn't put on there, is the fun happy hour that's going to be on the 21st at the Rock Rest Lodge that Clinton brought up earlier. But the SWANA's fall conference itself is the 21st through the 23rd in Golden. So if anybody's interested there's a link in the agenda for that. And then, of course, the next date is October 1st, where we're doing our GSD 2.0 or Colorado Composting Council annual convening, whatever you want to call it. October 1st, it's actually going to be held at the Fraser Valley Library. As most people know around here, Fraser and Winter Park are basically the same place. The day after that in Winter Park is the Recycle Colorado annual meeting. So it's a 2-for-1, the first and second, first part of October up in Fraser and Winter Park. In early October, October 8th and 9th in Fort Collins is CSU's Soil Carbon Solutions Center Ecosystem Modeling and Data Consortium. That's a mouthful. Not sure who might be interested in that, but there it is. There also is the Rocky Mountain Regional Turfgrass Association Conference and Trade Show, October 8th through 10 in Loveland for any interested parties. The Mountain Towns MT 2030 Climate Summit is October 13th and 14th in Sun Valley, Idaho. Julie will luckily be going to that, so we'll love to hear a report back from you, Julie, maybe at our next meeting, if that's okay with you. Have fun. I hope that is amazing. And then, of course, we've talked quite a lot about the COTC, the Compost Operations Training Course, October 19th through 23rd at the National Western Complex in Denver. And then here in Boulder, the Soil Revolution Conference is a one-day conference on December 10th, where I will be happily sponsoring and tabling for the COCC. I've been to this conference for several years, and it's another good one to get in front of the ag community for, so especially the statewide ag community for this one. So should be pretty exciting. Our next quarterly Colorado Composting Council meeting will be on November 17th, again via Zoom from 2 to 4, just like this one. And then, of course, looking ahead to next year, Compost 2027 in Jacksonville, Florida, the USCC's annual conference. So let's mark our calendars for February 1st through 4th. And then, as I mentioned earlier, ICAW, International Compost Awareness Week, will be in May of 2027 as well. And I'm sure there are multitudes of other events and meetings and things that we could add to a list like this. One thing we want to make sure that we're doing for our membership is being a resource for these things. So if there's anything that we're missing, anything you want us to include, please do reach out at any time so we can just kind of keep a running list of these things that are going on, because there are a lot of them. That being said, I see Brian's hand up.
Sorry, my brain's been a little detached. I'm dealing with a dead car and an event in 2 hours.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, just another life
Thanks for
struggle.
being here.
Yeah, well, the car is charging, so there's nothing else I can be doing. I'm hoping it's the 12-volt battery. Did you mention that school project that I sent over?
I did not put it on there. I think, and Cam, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know that we had talked about that a little bit with the Recycle Colorado team about whether going to that was something we wanted to include. But I don't remember where we landed on that.
I can speak to that, Sandy,
Okay.
to
Thanks,
whatever I can remember here. But I know it was an event that is happening at UNC, Northern Colorado University, the one in Greeley, my goodness. And it is a pretty cool event, but it looks like it's pretty targeted toward like younger, like high school kids and things like that. And so Cam and I just discussed it a little bit and decided that, you know, with just kind of our bandwidth, that we would let that one be for now. But for other folks that want to talk to some younger kids that are potentially on their way to the university in Greeley, I think it's a pretty cool event.
Yeah,
we could get it added to the list for sure. I apologize that I missed that one.
No, that's cool. I'm gonna be there with Green Latinos. But I thought definitely with so many awesome people in this community that maybe we could get somebody to go talk about soils, and it's kind of like a career thought process fair too. So getting people interested in possible, what do they want to be when they grow up? And
yeah,
I think
that's awesome.
Yeah, thanks for dropping the link.
Oh, hey, Brian.
Great.
Brian, just so you know, I'll be speaking there on soil and composting and soil health.
Yay!
I know
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, I was waiting to
Okay.
figure out what you guys are talking about. I'm like, are they talking about the SLA leadership group? It's
Yeah,
amazing. It's over 400 kids. I mean, their reach and their impact is just incredible. It's awesome. They did it at CSU last year, and it's just an amazing event. So yeah.
I'm
Sweet.
so glad you're going to be there. I want to get it out. Cam's already putting it in the notes. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'll give you an update. Yep.
And Clinton, I'm glad that you're going to be there. Yeah, I think the more we can spread it around, I know that we were just running into a little bit of a capacity problem with a lot of things going on. So good to know that you're going to be there. You must not have been on that email thread of the 400 other email threads that you are on. So
thank gosh.
All right, good luck, Ryan. Okay, friends, we've reached the end of the agenda in an hour and 52 minutes. Look at that. I would love to leave these last 8 minutes back to you, or since I realized that we really didn't ask this at the top of the agenda like I should have, was whether or not any of our members have any updates that they want to share with the group. So if there's any open comments or thoughts or announcements or anything that anyone wants to share for any reason, we would love to hear it now.
Hello, my name is William, and I have a hauling company here in the Denver Metro. And this next Saturday, not this current Saturday, but the following Saturday, the Colorado Restaurant Association is having their grand tasting event, and we are responsible for composting. So if any one of these bright minds, wonderful people want to help out, please reach out to me. I'm going to have stations and try our best to manage it. There's over 100 vendors. It's going to be, quite the challenge, but we want to put our best foot forward, and volunteers will be able to help with the coordination of the stations. And then, of course, enjoy some of the grand tasting, booths and all the fun stuff that is associated with the event.
Very cool. Thanks, William. Can you drop a link to the event in the chat for us so we can get it in the notes for folks to refer to?
Absolutely.
That would be fantastic. Thank you. All right. Anyone else with some info to share? Leaving an awkward 7 seconds this time. All right. Well, it's a wrap. Thank you all so much for being here, and what a great meeting. I keep saying this. I've been like signing off almost every single email about everything, about just saying the momentum is palpable, and it's like it's events, and it's policy, and it's ordinances, and it's just Colorado is really just there. It's in the middle. It's ripe for all of these cool things happening. It's the COTC. It's the research project on the Western Slope. It's just there's just so much. So let's put it together. Let's keep moving forward. Onward, team. Thanks for everything. Oh, Clinton, it's COTC.
Thanks,
Take care,
Sandy.
y'all. Bye
Thanks,
now.
Sandy. Thanks,
You bet.
Liz.
Bye.
Later.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.